wanted to talk to you today about the decision that I made to purchase a side-by-side. I did a year's worth of research. I watched every video on YouTube, looked at all the different brands, went down to the power sport dealer. I sat in all different models of this thing, trying to make a decision on what kind of side-by-side I wanted to get. As you can see, I got a Can-Am Commander. So as I made this decision, I started to list off the things that I really wanted in a side-by-side. I knew, first thing, I wanted a four-door. I wanted to be able to bring my kids with me. That was important. As well, anytime maybe my wife and I want to take some friends out, we have that capability. Didn't want to limit myself with a two-seater. But I also knew I wanted something that was sport and utility at the same time. Looking at some of the other models, if they've got a bench seat in it, I think there's only so much sport stuff you can do with a bench seat. Still fun, but I wanted something that was more sporty than that. But utility was important to me as well. So I wanted something that had a bed in the back. Looking at that, there were really only two brands that stood out to me. Can-Am Commander and the Polaris General. I did also compare this one to the Polaris General. I spent a lot of time side-by-side comparing those two because they are very comparable. I knew that I wanted doors. The Commander itself didn't come with doors, but obviously I added doors to it, and I'll talk about that more. For me, it really came down to the feel. I went down to the local, well, I went to several places, but the local power sport dealer where they did have Polaris as well as Can-Am, and I got to sit on them. I've got to say the seats in the Can-Am are significantly better than the factory seats that are in the Polaris. That wasn't the only appeal, that wasn't the only draw to me, but just the overall looks, comfort. There are certainly some things performance-wise that I think the Polaris had, as well aftermarket accessories. That's what I've learned later. Aftermarket accessories, Polaris RZR stuff is far more common than any other brand, any other manufacturer. So the first thing I did when I purchased this, so this is a 2017, and I bought it in 2017, but I did buy it used. It was about 5 months old when I purchased it. First thing that I did was I stripped all the decals off. Got out there with the pressure washer and got the decals nice and saturated. They came off relatively simple. So stripped the decals off the side, and I like that a lot cleaner look as well. I did add a couple of other decals to this. I'll probably do some other stuff later, but we'll see how that goes. So I did change out the wheels and tires. In Arizona, where I live, we have the ability of registering this for on-road use. It registers out like a motorcycle. And I knew that the factory tires were going to get torn up on the asphalt. They weren't very comfortable. They were giant knobby tires, and they're great tires for off-road use. But in addition to that, they were going to get tore up. So I was changing out the wheels and tires to make it look better as well, to get a little bit better performance on the road as well. So I did end up going with a set of beadlock wheels. They were just standard black, and then I actually came in and spray painted them to kind of get them to color match a little bit, make it pop just a little. And then decided to go with the Kumo tires. Now these tires themselves are actually light truck tires instead of just DOT approved UTV tires. But they were the size I needed. So these are 27 on a 14, and that's what I needed, but I could have gone with a little bit bigger tire now, knowing. So the Can-Am itself, it did actually have a 2.5-inch lift kit when I purchased it. I don't know that it really changes much, or if it really gives you 2.5 extra inches, but it's just the bolt adjustment. So I think I could have gone with a little bit bigger tire, and maybe when these tires are worn out, I'll change it. But for now, this thing does everything that I needed to. Longer. So another add-on that I did was the roof. It came with a soft top on it, and the soft top just sits there and beats and beats and beats in the wind and just drives me nuts. So I did end up putting the hard top on it as well. It is a Can-Am hard top. Again, I purchased it actually through Amazon on that one. Doors, like I say, I wanted the doors on here, and I went with Dragonfire Racing doors. I thought they looked so much better than the Can-Am or the other brands that are out there. I like the height of them. The Can-Am ones, they want to keep your shoulders in, keep you protected a little bit more, but they don't look as appealing. So I love this Dragonfire doors themselves have been great. I've had them on here for 5 months or so since I've owned this thing. They're great. They're great. They hold up. The kids can get in and out of them just fine. The Polaris General, when I looked at that, it does come with doors, but the doors are plastic, and they just felt like they could fall apart. These are steel. They don't rattle. They don't vibrate. They don't shake. Of course, I installed them. I think I did a pretty good job installing them as well, but they're not difficult. So those are the changes and upgrades that I've made thus far. There's more that I have planned for this thing, and I'll talk about that. So the Can-Am XT does come with a built-in winch. It does come with an upgraded dash display, but it doesn't come with a stereo. The Limited came with a stereo, but I'm a sound snob, and I am sure that I would not be happy with the sound that was coming out of a factory radio. So I'm going to upgrade this thing the way I want the sound to be. Of course, I'm going to put a head unit in it. I'm going to put an amplifier. I'm going to put tower speakers in the back, and it should be pretty good when it's all done. Now, by adding all this extra electronics into this thing, amongst other things that are going to happen, I know it's going to draw a ton of power. So I'm actually going to run a dual battery setup on this, so it's going to be able to power things like the rock lights, the CVT blower, the extra interior lights, the backup lights, all of these extra electronics that I'm going to put into this. I want to make sure that it doesn't leave me dead on a trail somewhere. So I'm going to run dual batteries. I think that's the safest setup. So I plan on doing a lot of electrical add-ons to this thing. I've got a head unit, I've got amplifier, tower speakers, backup lights, a handful of different rocker switches, all the wiring that I need for the dual battery setup, extra light, CVT blower, all kinds of add-ons that I'm going to end up doing to this vehicle, and hopefully you get to watch me go through part of this journey. Hope it's not a disaster.